Eating meat is harmful. It strengthens the carnal, coarse aspect of our nature instead of spiritualizing and refining us. To adapt your eating habits to the spiritual path requires first and foremost renouncing meat. Meat makes us animalistic, physically strong, and aggressive.
In Tibet, horses are fed on leopard flesh in order to make them fierce. The Kshatriyas of Rajputana depend upon a meat diet to maintain their warlike spirit. These two examples alone show the significance of meat eating. People do not slaughter a vast number of cattle from a sense of refinement.
Meat is not necessary for a healthy diet. Fruits, vegetables, and grains are completely sufficient.
People know that vegetables or fruit give more vital energy than a cup of blood, yet they prefer being served with bloody meat, greatly relishing this coarseness. There is no other name for this frenzy of blood consumption. People are perfectly aware that a handful of wheat or barley is sufficient to sustain life, but their animal instinct tries to drag their minds back to a bestial state.
Apples, oranges, or strawberries, for example, present themselves particularly attractive in order to be consumed. Thus, their seeds are released and they are able to reproduce. Animals, however, by their very nature, are not intended to be consumed. What would you say if the beings of the higher levels of evolution would take advantage of their superiority and start eating us humans? The really harmful in animal meat is the blood. It hinders the development of our finer energies and the natural connection with the higher world. In an emergency, therefore, you should eat, if possible, only dried or smoked meat.
Striking phenomena can be observed around spilled blood. Animals not only sense the blood, but fall into agitation and terror. Not by accident did the most savage sacrifices require blood as a means of excitement into intoxication. Likewise, the black mass needs blood as a strong stimulation. Any food containing blood is harmful for the development of the subtle energy. If humanity would only refrain from devouring dead bodies, then evolution could be accelerated. Likewise, when I indicate a vegetable diet, I am guarding against nourishing the subtle body with blood. The essence of blood thoroughly permeates the body and even the subtle body. Blood is undesirable in the diet.
Blood attracts lower creatures from the lower spheres of the subtle world.
One can actually see that the creatures attracted by meat are repellent.
Meat eating is also inadmissible because any unnecessary killing must be avoided.
If a branch has been senselessly broken, let us nevertheless carry it to the temple. That is to say, let us be compassionate. The same feeling prompts one to guard against killing.
Look behind the shiny facade of the tastily packed and beautifully colored industrial products which are offered at a supermarket as meat. Do not close your eyes to the terrible conditions of livestock farming and slaughterhouses. The en masse slaughter of our younger brothers and sisters on the ladder of evolution creates a terrible aura around the earth. In the coming new age, this will be considered as one of the greatest crimes of our time. Let us not only look self-righteously back, for example on the Nazi era. Let us rather see to it that we, today, are living according to high moral standards.
Let us not forget that mass killings, whether in war or in the slaughterhouse, equally pollute the atmosphere and violate the subtle world. It must be realized that every conscious killing shakes the entire surrounding atmosphere.
Alcohol, tobacco, and narcotics are dangerous poison to the spirit. They weaken the soul and destroy the body and our higher senses.
Narcotics are veritable chains of darkness, placing man in a helpless situation.
They rob us of our vitality.
Healer, tell the ailing ones that the use of wine diminishes by half their chances, that the use of narcotics takes away 3/4 of their vitality.
They attract from the other world not help, but dangerous lower creatures, and thus make the situation even worse.
It is a mistake to take refuge with narcotics and alcohol.
The spiritual path is a way of rising and refinement. If you enter it, you must not paralyze and kill exactly those fine emotions and sensations which you are called upon to develop.
We are definitely against narcotics which calm and deaden the intellect. How, then, will the quality of thoughts, so needed for the future life, be developed if we dull it with poison? The dark forces endeavor to seduce with all kinds of narcotics, but the narrow boundaries of life are not broadened by stupefying the intellect.
Drunkenness is incompatible with the dignity and the mission of a servant of God. This self-intoxication, self-mutilation, and self-humiliation is a form of degeneration.
We are decidedly against the drinking of wine. As an intoxicant, it is inadmissible.
As long as we are addicted to alcohol, we do not gain access to the higher spheres, and they will not approach us.
The great teachers will never approach a person who lives amidst the fumes of alcohol.
Intoxicants are an unnatural and inadequate attempt to rise above the stifling, burdensome earthly conditions.
Instead of following the path of good, people attempt to replace ecstasy of the spirit with various narcotics, which give the illusion of the other world's existence. Observe that in many religions there were introduced, as later adjuncts, very clever compounds of narcotics for the purpose of artificially advancing the consciousness beyond the earthly state. Indeed, the falsity of such forcible measures is great. They not only do not bring the worlds closer, they, on the contrary, estrange and coarsen the consciousness.
Instead of bringing us closer to heaven, they take us away from it.
The use of alcohol and opium are ugly attempts to approach the fiery world. If samadhi is a natural manifestation of higher fire, then the flame of alcohol is a destroyer of fire. True, narcotics evoke illusions of a fiery approach, but actually they will remain for a long time as obstacles to the mastery of the true energy of Agni. Nothing brings such misery later in the subtle world as do these unnatural attempts to evoke fire without a fitting purification. One may imagine that in the subtle world a drunkard not only is tormented by craving for alcohol, but suffers still more from unnaturally manifested fire, which, instead of strengthening him, consumes the tissues prematurely.
The real reason that drives people to enjoy narcotics is dissatisfaction with a meaningless, devoid of content and unfulfilled life. One can speak of self-hatred, of a self-destructive impulse which decomposes the natural instinct of self-preservation.
Urusvati knows the true meaning of humanity's self-stupefaction. Think about this urgently. Think about it. Humanity has never been so greatly poisoned as it is now. People do not want to understand that all kinds of alcoholic drinks, smoking, and so many other poisons decompose the human nature. They do not want to realize that in the midst of such poisoning, a healthy new generation cannot be conceived. People do not acknowledge that they infect space with their poisonous breath, and that by this madness they prepare for themselves a terrible existence in the supermundane world. People, in their mental torpor, not only do not think about others, but even their own instinct of self-preservation is withering away.
The solution of the addiction problem does not lie in pronouncing prohibitions. Rather, we need to show people a better life, a higher path with higher spiritual pleasures.
It is easy to say that people should not daze themselves, but they should then be offered more elevated paths.